Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the cringeworthy crisis that's facing low-income and middle-income Americans. Now, I have to be honest with you, this is not something you might necessarily want to hear, but I think it's also something many of us don't even want to talk about. But I think we have to confront realities if we have to emerge stronger as a result of this crisis. So I'm going to just go ahead and give you the information as you've been accustomed to on my channel. By now, you know that this is a very different channel compared to all the other channels out there. I give you the truth and I try and help you prepare as best as I can. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. In this video, I'm going to go over three things. Number one, the real life impact for low income citizens all over the country. Number two, the dichotomy of money. And this is going to surprise you. I'm actually going to give you an example of a landlord in Florida and the way they're treating their residents. And this landlord actually got money from the Paycheck Protection Program. So make sure you're prepared for that part of the video. Number three, I'm going to talk to you about your next steps in this new reality. I don't think that this is a conspiracy theory. I just think this is the way our system is designed. This is the byproduct of a capitalist economy. So with all of that being said, I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to talk about the real life impact for low income citizens all over the country. Now, in any major recession, the low income earners and the middle income earners are the ones who tend to suffer the most, simply because they are the ones with the smallest financial buffer, with the least amount of savings. So they are the ones whose finances go from being fragile to being completely decimated. They go from being somewhat risky to being completely dire, and they end up in a very bad situation. That's exactly what's happening as the economy has created. As I've mentioned in other videos, the low income earners and the individuals who have less than a college degree, in other words, those who don't even have a high school education or lower, they are the ones who essentially have jobs that cannot be done remotely. In other words, they do jobs that fundamentally, quote unquote, cater to the rich. They are the ones in travel, in entertainment, in leisure, in hospitality. And they are the ones in hotels. They are the ones who've been impacted the most, because the ones who spend money, the rich, are now not spending the money and are now working from home, working remotely, which, by the way, is something they can do because they are of a higher income level and they are of a higher education, which basically makes the inequality worse, which is why I talked about this being a K-shaped recovery. In fact, according to Zach Parolan, who's a researcher at Columbia University, 17 million individuals would have dropped below the poverty line had there not been $500 billion in direct intervention, which was provided by the government earlier in the year. But the problem is, now that there's no stimulus deal, now that there's no consensus between the Democrats and between the administration, there is a high probability that poverty rates can now increase significantly. And the poverty threshold, just so that my viewers and subscribers know, for a family of four is $26,200. That's $26,200 for a family of four, according to the US Department of Health and Human Services. Now, the Census Bureau is capturing a lot of data for the week that ended the 21st of July, the most recent numbers that are available. Roughly 29 million American adults, that's about 12.1%, say that they basically didn't have enough food to eat. And they specifically said they didn't have enough to eat in the past 7 days, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Think about this. 29 million adults in the United States of America didn't have enough food to eat in the 7 days prior to when this data was captured, which was the end of July. Also, nearly 15 million renters, yes, 15 million renters said that they were behind on rent during this same time period. Now, the problem is, despite the president's executive orders, despite the eviction moratorium that actually ended towards the end of July, and then the president came out with executive orders, despite that, many landlords are actually raising rent, issuing late fees, and initiating eviction proceedings earlier than the federal deadline. So what's happening is that things are getting more and more difficult for low income and middle income individuals who happen to be renters. And what's happening, ironically, is that African American and Latino Americans impacted the worst. In fact, in July, 44% and 41% respectively, that's African American and Latino Americans, said that they had no or slight confidence that they could make the next month's payment and they were likely to defer it. According to a US Census Bureau survey, about 21% of white renters felt the same way, according to an Urban Institute analysis of the data collected in the end of May and the first week of June. So you can see there's a disparity there for African American and Latino Americans. Now, evictions are likely to skyrocket. In fact, Diane Yentel, who's the president and chief executive of the National Low Income Housing Coalition, said that 40 million US households, 40 million US households, right? So that means many more. Let's say a household has, let's say, 3 individuals on average. We're talking 120 million individuals potentially. So 40 million US households are projected for eviction by the end of the year, and unless there is lack of legislative action. So hopefully the White House and the Democrats can come to a consensus and prevent this catastrophe from happening. Yentel said, when our collective health depends on our ability to stay in our homes, we all have a stake to ensure that tens of millions of people don't lose theirs. Evictions during a pandemic are not only cruel and immoral, they are also short-sighted and senseless. Now, on top of all this, more and more individuals are on food stamps. In fact, from March through April, 6 million individuals became newly eligible for the SNAP program, which provides food stamps. So basically, you have more and more needy families on food stamps. And on top of that, food prices are increasing. Food is becoming more and more expensive. So basically, when families are on limited and stretched budgets, they have to stretch every last dollar. And low-income families are now on food stamps and concerned about the risk of evictions. And we have to do something to help them. And now, in the second part of the video, let's talk about the dichotomy of money. This one is going to surprise you, so buckle up. According to the Tampa Bay Times, and the Tampa Bay Times reported that a Florida landlord got a big PPP loan. And by the way, I will provide you with a link to that Tampa Bay article in the description section below. So a Florida landlord got a big Paycheck Protection Program loan, but the tenants got rats, mold, and evictions. And the company basically has $1 billion portfolio of residential complexes nationally, including at least 12 in Hillsborough County alone. And on your screen right now, you're going to see some pictures that reflect the tenants' situation, the tenants that essentially rent from this landlord. You'll see a resident dumping a container of wastewater from a kitchen sink over the balcony of his apartment. And to the left is his 2-year-old daughter. Next, you'll see mold visible on an air conditioning vent in the bathroom. And the tenant said he has had to use an inhaler since moving into the apartment. Next, you'll see a cat climbing the wall of an apartment, and the balcony above the apartment, as you can see, shows signs of significant damage and disrepair. Next, you'll see water from a kitchen sink draining into a plastic storage tub under the sink of the tenants, and the tenants said that the building maintenance workers have avoided repairing plumbing issues, leaving them no option but to discard the water outside. That's where you saw the first picture. In the next image, you'll see one of the tenants using his fist to wake up a colony of bats. Yes, I said bats, which he says lives within the walls of the apartment. Next, you'll see a rat that's lying incapacitated on a glue trap. The rat, by the way, is still alive in the picture, is one of 9 rats trapped in the apartment this year. And you'll see exposed wood and damaged exterior of an apartment building. You'll also see this image, which is heartbreaking. It's a 1-year-old child sleeping in the living room of her apartment. So what's going on here? This is an example of one landlord in Florida. Now, since Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida issued a state moratorium on evictions and foreclosures, this was back in April. Basically, there were less evictions at that moment in time because a lot of landlords were waiting for the freeze to expire. But not this landlord. And by the way, if you want to read about this landlord, I will provide you with a link in the description section below. Not this landlord. This landlord filed more than 70 evictions in Hillsborough County alone since that moratorium took effect. Nearly all cited non-payment of rent. And the company did dismiss about half of its eviction filings. And this was a move that the landlord said was done to comply with the CARES Act regulations, because the CARES Act actually prohibited landlords in certain types of apartment buildings from initiating evictions based on non-payment of rent. However, starting the first week of June, which is about 2.5 months ago, while that moratorium was still in effect, the landlord started delivering notices to some of the tenants that that they had tried to evict earlier. And because those people were paying month to month, the landlord basically had the option of telling them to vacate with 15 days advance notice, and they then use the termination. Basically, they then proceed to evict the tenants. And the tenants said, while all this was going on, there was a prolonged period of time where maintenance requests were made and basically no maintenance was done. So unfortunately, this, my viewers and subscribers, is a dichotomy of money. What happens and what is happening is, in a country like ours, in what is in some ways a capitalist system, the rich get richer. Unfortunately, there isn't a direct relationship between money and morality and ethics. That doesn't mean everybody, let's be clear, that doesn't mean every wealthy person is immoral or doesn't have ethics. It doesn't mean that. But there is no clear line. There is no direct correlationship or direct proportion between the two. So when I say the dichotomy of money, I'm talking about individuals who, as a result of this crisis, actually become richer, while low-income and middle-income Americans who have worked for generations to overcome the cycle of poverty. By the way, you'll see the cycle of poverty on your screen right now. And I believe that it's very difficult to overcome the cycle of poverty. I myself, and you'll see the cycle of poverty on your screen, you'll see that one part of the cycle of poverty feeds another. The inability to buy food, the inability to get the proper education, the inability to take care of children, which in turn creates a self-sustaining cycle where there's more disease, there's lack of healthy food. It creates a self-sustaining cycle, and it's hard to get out of the cycle of poverty. I was able to get out of the cycle of poverty. If you don't know anything about me, check out my introductory video in the YouTube channel, where you can learn about how I was able to overcome the cycle of poverty. I've been able to live the American dream. I've had the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. So definitely check out my introductory video on the channel. And I want to teach you how to get to the next level. As far as what we can do about it, I believe this is a historic time. This is a time for us to try and re-engineer our skills, try and learn new skills. I believe that we need to get better with technology, or we need to improve our education level with technology. It might not be easy to just improve your education level, go back to school, but there's lots of free education or using sources like this. And you've got to be able to get comfortable with doing remote work. You've got to be able to get comfortable with using your laptop, with doing video conferencing, with having clear audio and clear visuals when you're communicating with someone remotely. You've got to be able to master those sorts of things, because that is the new economy that we live in. And I know you can. I know my viewers and subscribers are highly intelligent, highly motivated people. That's why you guys are sticking with me, because this is not just a stimulus channel and an unemployment benefits channel. This is much more than that. I have bigger goals and huge and significant aspirations for my subscribers, and I will help you overcome that cycle of poverty. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Once again, my name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. If you learned something new from this video, please click the like button below. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications so you get instant updates from us going forward. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time going forward. So make sure that on most days of the week. So make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you get instant alerts. Speaking of instant alerts, if you get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or with the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. We can send you breaking news and alerts, and then you can opt out of those alerts at any time. You can also get added to our email list, and you can opt out of the email list at any time if you want as well. Once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. I'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.